Hi, I'm Terry Tazioli. Welcome to King County Reads. Computer coding is a great job skill and can be a lot of fun. Just ask these girls.
Fun just to go out and hey, let's work on this cool website I want to do.
I want to learn coding to become a software developer for Google.
These new coders are members of a Girls Who Code club at the Newcastle Library. See how this free program is inspiring students. Who was the first female syndicated newspaper columnist in Seattle? Godden spent 2 decades as a reporter and columnist with the Seattle PI and the Seattle Times. She was also a Seattle City Council member. We talked with her about her new book, Citizen Jean. And do you believe you can do anything? Seattle quarterback Russell Wilson and his wife Sierra sure do. They're partnering with King County Library System to help kids dream big and believe that anything is possible.
I want to be just like my dad, and I want to be a software engineer.
I think that's a good skill to have, especially as we're moving into the more automation and more technically advanced society. And
I'd love to teach with other people, and I'd love to use it as getting into Microsoft.
Welcome to the King County Library System's beautiful 11,000 square foot library in Newcastle. We are here with Jackie Lockwood, who is the Teen Services Librarian for Newcastle Library, part of the King County Library System. Girls Who Code. What is it?
Okay. So Girls Who Code is a national nonprofit organization that aims to inspire and educate girls with the computing and tech skills they need now and in the future. And it works by partnering with organizations like schools and libraries who can serve as host locations for their clubs program. We have clubs programs for grades 6 through 12 running here at the Newcastle Library and also at the Bellevue Library. This is important because women make up 50% of the US population, but they are underrepresented in computer science. Only 24% of computer scientists are women. And that is actually down from the percentage that it used to be. In 1995, 37% of computer scientists were women. It's important to give girls and women access to opportunities to learn these skills that are going to help them get the jobs in the tech industry, both now and in the future. But I think it's also important that women are involved in creating the technology tools that we're going to be using now and in the future.
Just that drop in the number in the last, 20 years, 15 years, is pretty stunning. I hear that and think, I expected exactly the opposite. And I know there are probably many, many reasons for it, but what reasons do you hear from the girls who come to class that they want to be here? They want to learn this stuff.
From them, I hear lots about just wanting to learn more about what's involved and what kinds of things they can create through computer science and programming. A couple of the girls have very specific goals.
I want to learn coding because now I have a dream to become a software developer for Google.
entrepreneurship and kind of being young, just having to kind of make it on my own too, and work with other businesses and get my product in stores and stuff.
I want to be a teacher, so I don't think career-wise it would exactly align, but I think it taught me a lot about how to navigate computers.
I wonder if it's it's not just a teaching moment here for you to teach them how to do this, but maybe a bit of confidence building too?
Yes.
How so?
In part of the Girls Who Code curriculum is to focus on soft skills like bravery, creativity, resilience, skills that will serve you well as a professional really in any industry. How do you think bravery played into that? For women trying to break into the tech industry, where they're a minority group, I think it's especially important. So that's one of the reasons why Girls Who Code likes to emphasize those soft skills. And they do that by each week they give Girls Who Code Club facilitators a little kind of essay or something to present about a role model woman in tech. And then after you learn a little bit about this particular woman and what she's accomplished, we take a moment to focus on one of those soft skills and talk about why was this woman brave, in what she did, or how was what she did resilient.
And this class, this isn't just like a 1 or 2 week session here. We're talking many, many weeks if a student sticks with it. How long?
And last time I counted the weeks, I think it was about 22 or 23 altogether, because this first year I wanted to run a school year long club to see how it would go.
And
really,
most students have stuck with it. Is
Yep.
that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that's great. Why did you want to do this?
Personally, I thought it would be an excellent program. I think there are so many opportunities in the tech industry in the future, and I really wanted to be involved in giving girls access to those skills and an opportunity to learn. I personally have always had an interest in coding, web design. I don't have much experience. I got my first exposure to HTML in 1998 in high school, so, but I never did anything with it. So perhaps because of lack of role model in my life, I wanted to make sure that I was part of something that was providing role model examples to girls, so they could take this information, take this experience, make a decision. At least it's an informed decision about what they want to do with their lives.
Girls Who Code is also part of the county's effort at STEAM. You got to tell us what STEAM is. Tell me how this fits.
Yeah, so KCLS supports STEAM learning through our programs and events, and STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
I'm so glad you said that, 'cause I never would have remembered all those words.
And there are so many learning opportunities if you're looking for STEAM programs at KCLS. Probably the best way to start looking for one is to go to our webpage, kcls.org, and then go to the calendar of events, and then filter your search by the category computers and technology. And you'll see a lot of options pop up there. For example, we have an Idea X Makerspace at the Bellevue Library that has a lot of opportunities for hands-on learning, and we're opening a brand new makerspace at the Federal Way Library in early 2020. There's a Coder Dojo Club at the Bellevue Library and the Sammamish Library, which is another opportunity for drop-in coding exploration. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a Kerbal Space Program Club here at the Newcastle Library where participants can play the computer game Kerbal Space Program, which lets them build rockets and planes out of component parts.
It makes me think that these are not traditional classroom moments, if you will. They're not set up the way that you're up there, you got the pointer, or you got the PowerPoint, whatever. These are very much almost a student, in part, driven learning experience.
Okay, all right, let's get to work. It's a facilitator-guided program, Girls Who Code Club is. And also the students do self-paced learning. So really it, in a way, emulates what might happen if you're working in the tech industry. It's focused on initiative, taking the time to learn for yourself new skills, how to do something new with a programming language, and then applying it to the problem that you're trying to work on.
What do you hope that they take away from all their time with you and the other facilitators?
I hope they take away that they have the confidence to do what they want to do, that they can learn something new, that they can take those bravery skills that they've been focusing on in the club and apply it to whatever they might be interested in, whether it's computer science or something else.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks. Do you dream big? Do you believe anything is possible? I hope you do. King County Library System's Dream Big, Anything is Possible is a campaign that's all about empowering kids.
Let's go. Hey, win on three. 1, 2, 3, win.
Likes to throw to, big target. Here's Baldwin, smaller target, and he ducks it for the touchdown. Russell Wilson, a guy they said was too small. He is a world champion.
You know, first of all, just to kind of give you guys a little background, about the Why Not You Foundation. My dad used to always give me this dream. He used to always tell me this line, this story, this question that really I found out was the core of who I really was and who I was going to become and who I am today.
You know what Russell Wilson is? He's a winner.
That question was, son, why not you?
His dad used to always tell him, why not you?
You know, and that was the fundamental question that I ended up asking myself middle school through high school. And I realized that that's the fundamental question that we all ask ourselves, whether you know it or not. We all have to ask ourselves subconsciously.
So it's 3rd and 13 now. Wilson out of the pocket. He can run. You all know that. And Wilson's going to pick up the first down and a few more.
You know, I also think about the importance of actually dreaming big. What does that mean? Sierra and I say that all the time, dream big. For me, that's actually visualizing where you want to go. If you want to see the movie that you really want to have for your own life, well, you got to know how to get there. You know, you got to know what time the movie starts. You got to write those things out. And I think that's really important in life. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I can give to you guys, hopefully, is the idea of what dreaming big looks like. I'm 5'11", just right at 5'11". I was a kid from Richmond, Virginia, didn't have much money at all. My family went bankrupt at one point even, to be honest with you. And so for me, to be able to be where I am today was through a lot of hard work, a lot of people believing in me, a lot of people, my mom and my dad, taking me to the library. And to be honest with you, I wasn't very good at school. I really had to work for school. Sports was easy for me, but I had to work at school. And my dad told me, he said, and my dad and my mom both told me that, you know, if I put as much energy in my school that I put into sports, how far could I take my life? And that's what's really encouraged me. That's what allowed me to dream big. Places like this, places that I could go and read, and I have to do that because that's the only place where I could be quiet and focus on what I needed to do to be successful.
This beat is automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. For myself, I came from a place in Georgia called Decatur, Georgia, and there I didn't have much. I didn't have all the access a lot of my peers had that do what I'm doing today. But what I did have is I had a dream. And I believed in that dream. And I understood that and I always believe this, that all it takes is one person to believe, and that person is you. And that was my power throughout, from that moment on until now. And I want for you guys to really understand that it doesn't matter where you come from or what you have. That dream, the power of your dream is truly within you. But I knew I had the dream of being an entertainer, and I really believed in that. And I said, I'm going to commit to this dream. And what I did right away is I did a goal sheet. And on this goal sheet, I wrote down my goals. My first goal was to get discovered. The second goal was, once I got discovered, to sell 3 to 4 million records. And the third goal was to have longevity. And I mentioned that process because that is the power of envisioning your dream. The power of manifestation starts there, and then you write it down, right? And when you write those dreams down, you give those dreams power. The overall concept is that you got to have a compass of where you're trying to get to in life. And I really believe you cannot get anywhere in life without having a compass. And your compass is writing down those dream goals. Do you understand that? Do you understand the power of manifestation? It starts with you envisioning your dream, writing it down, and actually saying dreams are real. They do come true. No dream is really too big. Why not me? Why not you? Do you guys understand that? Yeah, so if you really understand it, I want you guys to say with me, say, I believe in me. I believe in me. I can be anything that I want to be. If I believe in me. No dream is too big.
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 Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Do you believe what you're saying? Yes. I'm telling you, the power of what you say. When you speak, you have a chance to tell your life story. So when you speak, say great things.
Anything is possible. If they can do it, we can do it.
It makes me feel don't give up and always dream big. Yeah.
I think about what Sierra and Russell were talking about with writing down goals. I think about how I did that a lot when I was younger, when I was in high school, because it's like I have all these ideas in my head, but I need to get them out and I need to kind of plan before I'm just like, I'm going to do this. I think that was like really good advice.
1, 2, 3.
Why not you? Dream big.
I'm here with Gene Godden, and I imagine a whole lot of people out there know who you are. Just in case, longtime columnist at both the Seattle PI and the Seattle Times, former city council person, and now author. You have your own radio show. You're still writing.
Oh, yes, yes.
And
yes.
I'm tired,
A
Jean.
column every week.
You have your very first book out called
Citizen Jean.
And I'm not going to ask you, because, you know, it's a family station, what you wanted to call it.
What I wanted to call it? Well, when I was working on it, I called it Confessions of, and am I allowed to say, a badass bitch?
You just did. So
okay, well, maybe they'll bleep me out. But the reason why was because the stranger, that's what they called me. Mm-hmm. And I thought, gee, that's sort of great. I'm going to have to embrace that.
But here we are with Citizen Jean. What's the title mean to you after all you've done in this city, in this county where we're all living?
Well, of course, I was at the city for 12 years as a council member, and now I'm just a citizen. And I hope an active citizen and doing some citizenry things.
Well, you were a citizen, if you will, before your career as a columnist, with the, if you will, the ramps to nowhere.
Oh, yes, indeed. I was an activist back when I first came to Seattle. Among other things, I discovered one morning that there would be a freeway through my house. It was called the Empire Expressway, but they decided after a while that people were unhappy with that, so they would call it the R.H. Thompson, because Thompson had been a city engineer that was very much beloved. He had taken down a number of hills and filled up a number of gulches and flattened out the city, and they liked him a lot. So that was why they were going to call it the R.H. Thompson.
This is one of the stories in the book.
Indeed.
This is one of several you chose to write about after essentially being involved with all of these things. Why did you want to write the book in the first place?
Well, you know, I got to thinking, well, it's later than I thought. I think almost all journalists think they've got a book in them, somewhere in there, and someday they're going to get around to it. And I hadn't gotten around to it, and I realized it was getting later, and if I didn't put it down on paper, it wasn't going to make it.
Well, truth in advertising, right? You and I worked together in the news biz for many years at the Seattle Times.
We did indeed.
And both of our careers have been in the news biz. You took a little detour and joined the city council, which, you know, which we'll talk about. So many people are new to this county over the last many years, new to both King County and the city of Seattle. I would imagine none of them has lived in as many places in the United States as you did.
Well, I would say it would be very difficult to beat what I had done. Growing up a very, very young person, my father was doing the surveying for the United States government, the TVA, preparing for the TVA. And so we moved every 10 days to 2 weeks. My mother fortunately kept a list, and by the time I got to Seattle, age 17, I had lived 116 different addresses.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
This is great.
I mean, it was natural for me to want to put down roots.
Sure.
So many times you had sand in your shoes.
Well, and that was 1950.
Yes.
And not long after, you began you advanced from being the paper deliverer to a newspaper person. How'd that all get started?
Well, my first job, real job, I suppose, as a reporter, was at the University District Herald. It was a community newspaper at the time, and it was a very good-sized one. In fact, it had been the first free community newspaper in the country. Came out once a week, Thursday evenings, while we put the paper to bed, and people got the paper on Fridays, and it was very often 16 pages.
We talk a lot on the program about reading and writing. Have you done both?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Obviously, you've done them now, but have you done both since you were
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, definitely. In fact, I used to remember we would occasionally visit relatives, and I would visit my grandparents, and my grandfather always came home with the newspaper. And he would sit in the living room and read the newspaper before my grandmother served the evening meal. And I would sit by his chair, and I would pretend to read the newspaper as well.
Now, I know that you talk about that in the book, and you talk about lots of things in your career as you began to cover, well, this city and this region, this area. Some of those big events, big stories are chronicled in Citizen Gene. How did you choose them? Because you went through a lot, you've seen so much. How'd you choose these?
Well, it was hard, actually. That was probably the hardest part of writing it, was figuring out which ones to cover. And I wanted them to be significant milestones in the city of Seattle. So the 17 different chapters, all of them, are sort of like a step in Seattle's history. Chapter 1 is the Seattle World's Fair. It seems to me that that made quite a difference in Seattle's life. Seattle was not the same city that it was after the fair as it was before the fair. And I kind of used that as the yardstick. The others are very much the same way. When you think about the World Trade Organization riots, that was certainly an epic in the city of Seattle and certainly part of making Seattle.
Well, with the World's Fair, there was a secret.
Oh, indeed.
Right? There was a little plot behind it.
It turned out that the civic leaders, certainly the mayor of the city of Seattle, didn't think of it so much as a fair as thought of it as an opportunity to get a city center. He felt that Seattle needed a center, didn't have one, and this would give us an excuse because after the fair was over in 6 months, that we would have a permanent Seattle City Center, and we do.
And Jean, we were talking about this, and the book is certainly in this vein. It's a great history, not just for those of us who grew up here, but for new folks to learn about this area. And it's not just Seattle, it's the county, it's the state of Washington. As
the
these
region,
events,
yes,
right,
indeed.
you know, they spread all over the place. What was your inspiration for continuing this history?
Well, I have always loved Murray Morgan's Skid Road, which is sort of takes the city all the way from the early days of the people landing at the Denny Party landing at Alki Point, all the way up to the Seattle World's Fair. And then, of course, that's when Murray finished his book. And that was sort of where I took off from.
All of your life has been about writing and reading. What benefits? What do you get from both of those, from reading as much as you do and from writing?
Well, I think you always hope to be enriched by everything you read. I mean, you really, at least when I read, I want to read something that is new to me, something that I didn't know I will discover in that book.
And you still write. Why?
Why do I write? I suppose because I want to, you know, share an experience that I've had. When I wrote columns, I wanted to tell something new. I wanted to talk about Seattle and some of the things that people were doing in Seattle. People, we always want to know about other people. It's funny. People are very interested in people.
They are. And I think they would be very interested in Citizen Gene.
Hope so.
It's quite a read, and I would recommend it.
Thank you.
I'm not in there, but I
that.
still would recommend it. It's
I'm
okay.
glad to pay you, Terry.
Yeah. Thank you, Jean Godden. It's great to have you with us.
It's great to be here.
Thank you.
This episode of Emily's Pics is all about youth empowerment, and we have so many inspiring stories to choose from at KCLS. The 4 books I picked today are about young people finding their voices, making a difference, and discovering who they are. 3 of the 4 books are young adult books, but I think adults will enjoy them too. So first up is Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. This is a super charming graphic novel. It was on our best books list last year. It follows a young man named Eric Biddle, better known as Biddy, through his freshman and sophomore years on the Samwell College hockey team as he comes out to his teammates, falls for his captain, learns to take a hit on the ice, and bakes about 1 million pies. It's funny, profane, the characters are mostly college hockey players after all, and very sweet. Next, something totally different, Exit Pursued by a Bear. Hermione Winters is looking forward to her senior year. She's the incoming captain of the cheerleading team, which is beloved in her tiny town. And then at the end of summer cheer camp, she's drugged and raped, and she gets pregnant. What follows is a complex and moving story about a young woman taking control of her own life and the way her friends and community rally around her. That's kind of an unusual take in a story about sexual assault, but it's really well done. This one is a few years old, but it feels as timely and relevant today as it did when it was published. My next pick is another college story, although this one is about a graduate student. Weiki Wang's Chemistry is a quirky, melancholy little novel with an unforgettable voice. The novel's unnamed narrator is on the cusp of adulthood in many ways. She's working on a PhD in chemistry. She's avoiding answering her boyfriend's marriage proposal. Her friends all around her are finishing their research, they're getting married, they're having babies. But as her research falters and her relationship crumbles, she's forced to ask herself, probably for the first time ever, what she really wants. The voice is what makes this novel work. It's curious, it's sharp, and it's got this great dry sense of humor. And then last but not least is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wein. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It's about two young women serving in the British Air Force during World War II. One is a pilot and the other is a spy. When the book opens, their plane has been shot down over Nazi-occupied France, and one of them has been captured by the Nazis. It's got an incredible, twisty plot that's full of surprises, but it's anchored by these two really real-feeling young women and their wonderful and unexpected friendship. For more stories of teen empowerment, visit kcls.org. Thanks for joining us for Emily's Picks.
Thanks for joining us for King County Reads. I'm Terry Tazioli. Please visit us online at kcls.org. We'll see you next time.